like to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. I apologize for the delay. We're about 3.5 minutes or so after 6 o'clock. We generally have a hard start time at 6, but we had a work session from 4:30 that went a little bit longer, and got out of the work session at about 5:54, and so took a little quick break, and we're reconvening. We have one director who will be in. He was here for the work session, be walking in here in 2 seconds. But we'll go ahead and begin. We'll have the invocation by Pastor Keith Capps, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together here. God, I thank you for our leaders. God, we acknowledge that all authority is yours, and as you say in Romans, any authority that is given by you. And I just thank you for these leaders. God, I pray for them. I pray for their families, that you would protect them, that you would bless them, that you would give them wisdom and direction and help them to lead well. God, we just thank you for what you're doing in our city, and pray that you would be honored and glorified through all that's done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Elaine Jones.
Here.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mayor.
Second. Director Garcia, seconded by Director Trusty. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting on September 7th, 2021. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So
Director
moved.
Trusty,
Second.
seconded by Director Weatherford. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have a number of proclamations here this evening. We have one that's in board chambers. I'll read that and present it, and then we'll have Director Dobbs-Smith read the proclamation for Extra Mile Day, and Director Garcia for a proclamation for National Suicide Prevention and Action Month. I have the privilege of reading the proclamation recognizing National Rehabilitation Awareness Week. We'll present this to Leslie Chilcote, CEO of Encompass Health, and Sonia Buchanan, Director of Therapy Operations. City of Hot Springs proclamation. Whereas CHI St. Vincent's Hot Springs Rehabilitation Hospital, a partner of Encompass Health, and the National Rehabilitation Awareness Foundation will observe National Rehabilitation Week, September 19th through 25th, 2021. And whereas this year's theme is Discover the Possibilities, we are celebrating the faces of triumph over all disability. And whereas our mission is to come together to educate individuals about the diverse benefits and impact of rehabilitation, increased opportunities for people with disabilities, and assist individuals to live up their fullest potential within their environment. And whereas many disabled people experience balance, mobility, cognitive, sensory, or perceptual challenges that impact their activities of daily living, thus allowing them to feel defeated in their ability to participate in family and community living. And whereas the health and attitude and productivity of individuals depend upon the effective use of the rehabilitation resources available to them, the physical, occupational, and speech programs available can improve strength, balance, posture, flexibility, endurance, swallowing, and cognition, along with speech function. These strides of improvement allow individuals to re-enter life with a renewed capacity for interaction with others and greater independence with activities of daily living. Now, therefore, I, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim the week of September 19th through the 25th, 2021, as National Rehabilitation Awareness Week in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed on this 21st day of September in the year of our Lord, 2021. And I'll present this to Leslie and Sonia.
Well, I would like to thank Mayor McCabe and the Board of Directors for once again recognizing National Rehab Awareness Week in Hot Springs. Rehabilitation is a vital component in the healthcare journey for so many of our community residents, and we're just very proud to be a part of that journey and to serve the needs of our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. As I indicated a few seconds ago, we'll have Director Dobb Smith read the proclamation for Extra Mile Day.
I'm very pleased to read this proclamation. Whereas Hot Springs is a community which acknowledges that a unique vibrancy exists within the community as a whole when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Hot Springs is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas the Hot Springs is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Hot Springs acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America to create 500 extra mile cities in America, and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Now, therefore, Mayor Pat McCabe, on behalf of the City of Hot Springs and on behalf of the Board of Directors, we do proclaim November 1st, 2021 as Extra Mile Day. And in the City of Hot Springs, I urge each of the individuals to live up to that commitment of Extra Mile Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll conclude our proclamations with a very important proclamation on National Suicide Prevention and Action Month, and Director Garcia is going to help us with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas September is known globally as Suicide Prevention Month, the National Suicide Prevention and Action Month proclamation was created to raise the visibility of the mental health resources and suicide prevention services available in our community. The goal is to start the conversation about mental health and the impact of suicide, to help destigmatize the conversation and to help connect people with the appropriate support services. And whereas, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among adults and the second leading cause of death among individuals between ages of 10 and 34. Whereas more than 48,000 people died by suicide across the United States in 2018, with an average of 132 suicides completed daily. And whereas each and every suicide directly impacts a minimum of 100 additional people, including family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, and community members. The City of Hot Springs publicly places its full support behind those who work and work in the fields of mental health, education, and law enforcement. Whereas global organizations like Hope for the Day and our local mental health partners, excuse me, our local mental health partners serve on front lines of this war that many still refuse to discuss, as stigma regarding suicide and mental health issues is far too prevalent. Now, therefore, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, proclaims September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention and Action Month here in Hot Springs, and encourages all residents to take the time and understand the importance of mental health education and recognize that taking care of ourselves and others includes taking care of mental health. This is very personal to me. 20 years ago, this year, I lost a member of my family to suicide, and there's not a day goes by that he's not missed. And we have to remove the stigma of discussing mental health, and especially during this time where people during the past year were in different circumstances during the COVID lockdown. We don't know how many people were isolated or may be impacted, and there's nothing wrong with checking on someone and discussing and seeking mental health support. And we have the resources here in our community to help with this issue. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Director Garcia. Each of these proclamations, really call upon us as a community to look at our neighbors and our family and friends and try to extend ourselves both in the area of physical therapy, speech, and occupational in order to, there's always somebody that you may see in your neighborhood who's having a hard time getting around, and to the degree that they can receive services or encourage them to receive services, because the less mobile they are, the less cognition they have, then they withdraw from our community and society. And then the extra mile, we have a great number of organizations that provide services through volunteerism and seek additional volunteers. There's always ways that we can extend ourselves. I always like when I drive into communities and you see volunteer community of the year, and they have a year or so that in which the state of Arkansas recognize them. And then here, as heartfelt as Director Garcia was in National Suicide Prevention Proclamation, the sad fact about suicide is that many times we didn't know that someone was struggling until it's too late. And for us to be able to be more aware of the signs and symptoms and the trials and struggles individuals are having, and for us to take that step forward and say, hey, can I help you? That's needed each and every day. And there is a stigma, yes, there is a stigma, but that we've got to be able to recognize much earlier the signs, and I know it takes that's very difficult. And I think I recall a person about 3 or 4 years ago here in this town, always had the brightest smile. You never thought the person had a bad day, but then now he's no longer with us. So we never know. So it's a sad loss each and every time. So thank you, Director Garcia and Director Dobb-Smith, for your reading of the proclamations. Now we'll move to the City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. And for my City Manager's report this evening, I want to devote it to an update to the redistricting the maps that we've been working on, the staff has worked on. After last week's work session, we listened to the board, we listened to what your priorities were, and responded with continued edits to the redistricting maps. And I know that Harmony and Mary Donaldson heard what you said and went back and really started to work on those maps and continue to work on those. We were under a little bit of a misconception, and I want to let the city attorney know that I appreciate him going back and researching through that. We were under the impression in a city manager form of government that the directors within their respective districts would, if they were district out due to redistricting, that they would continue to serve until the next election. Well, the city manager statute is silent on that, and the city attorney let us know that we would most likely revert back to cities of first class. And in those, it's very clear that when that redistricting happens, if someone is removed from the district, a board member is removed due to redistricting, they would not continue to serve. So there would be a vacancy, and then the board would appoint someone to that district. So we took what we heard at that work session, went back, and I know that Harmony and Mary began to work on the district mapping again and almost started over. But I want to update you on their progress tonight and take a few minutes to show you this rendering. This particular working map was modified to closely align with the traditional redistricting purposes and principles that we discussed last week. Specifically, the core of all 6 districts remain the same, or as possible, as close to the existing maps as we can make those. The districts, they're compact, or at least as compact as we could make them, and continuing to keep all of the other principles in place for redistricting that we discussed last week. This is a work in progress, and again, I think these are as close as we can get to what we heard from the board and keep those principles and primary considerations for redistricting in place. You'll see that some of those changes, Harmony, I may need you on this.
Can she put them on the screen?
We don't have those on the screen. But you'll see where District 1 has, I'm sorry, Director.
I'll go up there later, you're good.
But you'll see basically where District 1 has moved down into District 2. 2 has moved down into of the lower portion of District 1, District 4, District 5, and District 6, and just a tad piece of District 3. District 3 continues to move south into District 4. 4 actually stays pretty intact, with a little bit of 5 coming into 4. 5 also stays pretty intact other than the changes in District 2, 3, and 4. And 6 has stayed pretty well intact as well, except for District 2 moving into a portion of District 6. District 2 now moves all the way over, I believe that's Ridgeway? Over to Ridgeway, and what is that, the other line there coming down?
This is James Street and
Is that Malvern?
this is Pleasant Valley. It comes across to, is that Fox Run?
Yeah, over to Fox Run off of Ridgeway. So this is one example. What this one does do, it does achieve the goal of keeping our incumbents, which is one of the goals in the priorities that we heard from the board, as well as I'll call them suggestions, I guess, in redistricting, some of the principles that they had, principles that we needed to look at. It does achieve that. One of the things, though, that we heard at the work session was keeping neighborhoods intact, and we've tried to do that as best we can. We did hear some discussion on Quapaw Prospect. We kept Quapaw Prospect at that same dividing line that it had originally, that we had in the 2010 decennial, with the exception of a block on Hawthorne that moved over into District 1. But it does separate Quapaw Prospect in that same line that it did previously in moving there. They both terminate. They don't terminate at Grand. 3 moves on over into Grand as well, and has that, again, that little finger that drops down over 4. So we can shoot that out to you. We've looked at some other issues. We looked at one that did encompass taking all of Quapaw Prospect and moving that to 1. But again, that unseats one of our incumbents, and that's not something that I wanted to do as staff. I don't think I'm great with redrawing these, and as I mentioned in the work session, I'm glad that that's going back to the Election Commission. I don't think, it's put staff in a very awkward position, but I don't believe staff should be in the position that we remove an incumbent director. I think that's something that, as an elected body, you would tell us if that's your priority. But I think this one is one that is very workable and keeps all incumbents in place and meets the guidelines. It is a little bit light in District 1 in comparison to District 5, but each one of those are within 5% of our target number, so they do meet that criteria as well.
Very good. Good work. Appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, and especially since you're having to do so much manual, I can't believe from 10 years ago that it went to more manual process versus the, electronic.
We did find a software out there that would allow us to do some of that, but it was $7,500. And so we just found that last week, but we've already done, the legwork, pretty much the hard work. So we didn't suggest buying that software to do more. So if this is something that there's consensus on, then we'll be working to bring that back to a future meeting for your adoption, so we can get that to the Election Commission.
And you will send this out to us?
We will.
Okay, thank you.
And feel free to share any comments with myself and Harmony and the city attorney.
And is it after we adopt a map that there's public comment? Is that because there is a public comment portion to this, correct? Or is it now that we should encourage people to communicate?
Well, we really don't know what to put out without that direction from the board. If this is a consensus of the board, we could probably do that, but it probably needs to be adopted, so we're sharing what's been adopted. Well, I don't know. I guess if we adopt it, though, there won't be a time for a change unless we bring it back with an amendment.
Yeah, I would suggest you bring it to the board at their meeting. There can be discussion among the board and then perhaps tabled to give a period for public comment. And then at your next meeting, people can come and comment in person if they wish to do that before you actually vote on it.
At some of our meetings, we have public hearings on issues.
We can certainly add that to a public hearing.
We could do that too, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we had nothing concrete, but we were indicating, at least I was trying to ensure that we would take action on this in November. So we have the month of October to, we could get this on the first meeting of October, and as the city attorney said, table it or so, and kind of get it scripted out to where we, on a timeline, where we can provide some notice and some opportunity for public input.
Maybe at that second meeting of October, we can get it back on your agenda with the public hearing.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Harmony and Mary. They have done a lot of time and a lot of work on these particular maps, and they've really been the ones who have done all of the main hard work on it. So we appreciate their efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
This time we'll hear from directors regarding upcoming events. Anybody have an
Mayor,
announcement?
I have something.
You do?
Yes, believe it or not. The Ross Cycle, which city manager knows all about Ross Cycle and the grant that we gave them. Well, they're starting a fall into service project, and they're gonna start at Historic Friendship cemetery on Saturday, October the 30th, 2021, from 7 a.m. to 12, and they asking for volunteers. They're gonna be cleaning the cemetery. And they'll clean anywhere anybody can call them, and they'll do their yard, the seniors, like me, people who can't get out and rake their leaves. So I'm proud of them that this is D'Angelo Hicks and his wife, and I think he had 6 volunteers this past Saturday. And some of them were grown people, and that really impressed me. Okay, Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you for your report. Director Garcia.
The Habitat for Humanity Heels to Hammers build event, building 2 homes, is scheduled October 5th through the 9th, and there are still some spots available for volunteers. And on Thursday of that week, it's the Ann Caruso Day, and many know her from the arts community and committee. So every day that week, there are some volunteers needed, October 5th through 9th, and you can still sign up to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I do, Mayor.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Yeah, and I'm going to reiterate Heels to Hammers. Those 2 houses are being put up in District 1, so we're really excited, and that neighborhood's excited to see the new builds on that street. So please participate. Also, this coming Saturday, it is National Public Lands Day, and Hot Springs National Park is doing a volunteer morning from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can go to Arlington Lawn or Gulf of Gorge Campground and volunteer to pick up litter and help maintain the trails that many of us use. And this is not only National Public Lands Day here, it is across the entire country, and it's considered the largest single volunteer day in the country. People will be volunteering all over. So 9 to 12 this Saturday, either Arlington Lawn or Gulf of Gorge.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. If there's no further announcements, we'll continue on. At this time, we'll review those, we'll take action on the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not merit individual discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Weatherford. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have 4 action items for this evening. And the first is to consider Resolution R21-142. And I entertain a
Mayor, this is Resolution R-21-142, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to Ordinance Number 6069, located at 236 Palmetto Street. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Thank you. Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by, I think, Director Jones.
Yes.
Thank you. And
Mayor,
Mike
Board of
Scott,
Directors, thank you.
Chief Building Official, will give the report. Thank you.
236 Palmetto. This is a single-family residence that has been vacant since 2013. There's a significant deterioration to the exterior of the house, and it has become a home for groundhogs and other animals. This property is owned by John and Coritha Hampton. They now live in Maumelle. There are no current liens on the property. There are 2 houses located on this property. At this time, we are just asking to condemn only 236. The 20-day notice of condemnation has been issued, and we received the signed green cards from the Maumelle address of the owners.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Scott?
I have a question,
Yes.
and I don't know if this makes a difference one way or another, but it was brought to my attention yesterday that that house is perhaps under contract. Is that the case, and does that matter for us?
It is under contract. I talked to Will Racelina today. He is the one that's under contract. It's due to close October 5th. In the past, what we've done, we've gone ahead and condemned them because it's kind of started the clock on those new owners to, get going on it. Don't just hang on to it for a couple of more years. And so I talked to him, and his plans are to close on it on the 5th, come down to my office and get a permit and start work. And I talked to him. He was going to come here tonight, told him he was more than welcome to come, but it was my recommendation that we go ahead and condemn it and start that clock. But I mean,
Well, I know that you've been very easy to work with for those who show good faith in coming down to your office, getting the permits, and then showing some effort towards rehabilitation, so.
absolutely, I do not want to spend our money if I don't have to, Mayor.
Well, we don't want to punch holes that is very difficult to fill them.
And he expressed that he would probably go ahead and tear down the other house immediately also, if he does. And I hope he does. That'd be great for us if he does that.
All right.
So,
Any further questions on 236 Palmetto Street? Thank you. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak on 236 Palmetto condemnation? Brian, do you have an official wording to review on this item, or you normally read a statement? Or
Normally, I just ask if there's anyone here to speak in
Yeah.
opposition to the resolution to condemn certain property located at this address.
Thank you.
Hearing none.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Directors Holliday,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Resolution R21-143 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution number R-21-143, a resolution condemning certain real property pursuant to ordinance number 6069 at 118 Mellersh Street. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Dobbs-Smith. Staff report will again be provided by Chief Building Official Mike Scott.
thank you. 118 Mellersh. This is a vacant single-family resident. There's a hole in the roof and significant damage to the interior of the structure, including missing floors and walls. In 2020, vagrants set fire inside, causing further damage. Neighborhood services went over and we secured the front door with a piece of plywood to keep entry into the building. While the ownership shows several owners, only one is surviving at this time. There is a grandniece named Shelley Buck, but we also located her in Little Rock. We sent letters to both places on it, trying to get them to do the property. And then we sent a 20-day notice of condemnation and got both green cards back from both of those people.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Scott from the board? Very good. Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in opposition to Resolution R-21-143, condemning certain real property located at 118 Mellersh Street? There's none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst board members? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll consider Ordinance O21-43. Now entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Garcia, seconded by Director Trustee. I'll have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-21-41, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 105944, located off Pittman Road, owned by Shelley Mason, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Trustee. And our staff report will be provided by Engineering Project Manager, Mr. Todd Pillar. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. When we started this this ordinance is one of the firsts. When we started this Lake Washita water supply project, I told you there'd be many firsts. This is the first. The first eminent domain we had to do on our raw and finished water lines. This parcel is located on Contract 5, which is on the southern end of Pittman Road. It's the 42-inch welded steel pipe that's about 4.5 miles long that runs from basically the intersection of Airport Road and Northmore Road, down to our new water plant, running down Pittman Road, crossing Marion Anderson, and then running along Randall Road to our water plant. This is a 20-foot wide permanent easement and a 30-foot wide temporary easement and 297 feet in length. Contract 5, which this parcel is en route on the route, has been bid, has been awarded, and their notice to proceed was July 12th. Right now, we're in the process of doing submittals and surveying, and but clearing and construction will start very soon. The cost of the eminent domain is $1 per foot, which is $297, and it'll come out of the 2018 water bond issue.
Any questions of Mr. Pillar? Now, these easements, are they within like 20, 30 feet of the road system, or, I mean, we're not cutting a new path through the middle of forest or anything, are we? Or?
Good question, Mayor. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to say that. Along Pittman Road, staff decided to go on the back side of all the properties instead of going along Pittman Road and taking all the people's driveways and their way to get in and out of their house and their farms. And the back side of their properties is all either timber, horse pasture, or cattle pasture. So it was pretty easy to get all the easements along Pittman Road.
Okay, thank you.
Marvin just pulled it up on the map for you, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Not to prolong the discussion, I think we said in the agenda meeting that we had about 9 or so that we did not have easements on, but then in the last week we acquired a couple additional easements, so we only ended up with about 5 or so that we were challenged with. I mean, where we're into this process today.
That's correct. I would say there'd be about 7 total.
7 total.
As far as staff knows, that we know right now.
Yeah.
All of them have been on the 17 miles of raw water, 42-inch line have been obtained. And we have just a few, I think there's 5 on the finished water side that we're not to that step yet, but they just haven't signed yet. We're still negotiating.
Well, I think that's very commendable, both from the staff standpoint and the property owner standpoint.
Yes, I must say, Western and Southern Garland County, the folks out there have been really cooperative.
Yeah.
I also must say, though, with the county and the city agreement, it's been a lot easier for staff to get easements.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know it all stems originally from that, but then at the end of the day, it's the individual property owners.
Mayor, I think we needed a total of 182, and we're down to 7.
Right, thank you. That was the number I couldn't pull out, couldn't recall. Any further comments or questions for Mr. Pillar? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll just explain for the board, especially for those who may not have been involved in eminent domain proceeding at this point. The next steps are, if you approve this ordinance, I will file suit on behalf of the city to take the property by eminent domain, deposit the amount of the appraised value with the court so that we can begin work on the property immediately. If there is a dispute over the value, that will ultimately be determined by a jury.
Thank you. Any member of the audience would like to come and speak on this issue? On ordinance 02141? Any discussion amongst board members? Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance 021-42. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only. Director
moved.
Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-21-42, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 9177, located on Marion Anderson Road, owned by Gail Parkerson, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Jones, Director Dobbs-Smith on the second. And again, Engineering Project Manager Todd Pillar will give the staff report.
Thank you again, Mayor. This parcel is also on Contract 5, which is the raw water main. Again, it's a 20-foot permanent easement and a 30-foot construction easement. It's on a parcel that's landlocked off of Marion Anderson, as you can see on your screen. Basically, what staff needs is about a 30-foot square to put a 90-degree elbow. We're going to go across the northern boundary of Deer Valley subdivision, and then we're going to turn 90 degrees and go south on the eastern edge of Deer Valley subdivision. And again, like this with the other ordinance, we still need to go through this process because we're trying to keep the Lake Washita Water Supply Project scheduled for completion in 2023. And this one little parcel, we've sent out letters as far back as May of 2019, and recently staff sent out two letters, one by certified letter and one follow-up final offer letter that no responses were made. So we're here at Eminent Domain.
So what is the dimensions of the easement that you're seeking?
It's a 30-foot square.
30-foot square, yeah. Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Pillar from the board members? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any member of the audience would like to come and speak on this ordinance? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This concludes the action items on this evening's agenda. At this time, we'll consider Board of Directors items for discussion. Any director have items for discussion? Wow. All right.
Talked out.
Pardon?
We're all talked out.
Maybe I need to call on Director Jones then.
Hey, listen. It's almost 7 o'clock, Mayor. I move that we adjourn for the night.
We got a motion to adjourn. We have a second?
Second.
Certainly.
Director Dobbs-Smith, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Be safe on your way home. Thank you.
Thank you.